Big Hoops 99, he asked me, thanks Spicy, when talking about market regime, is this per coin or general market conditions? And would you take momentum trades when BTC is ranging but an altcoin is pumping? So Big Hoops, thanks for the questions and thanks for the comment on the YouTube as well. So when I'm talking about market regime, most of the time I am generally talking about per coin. Per coin. So this is a trendy regime. This is a choppy regime. When I'm talking about general market conditions, I will usually use the word general market conditions, or I'll say something like overall conditions. And when I'm talking, like, I try to be specific in my language so we don't have misunderstandings. But yeah, when I use the word regime, I'm mainly talking about like what's happening in that one specific coin. And then when I say general market conditions, I'm just talking about what is happening with altcoins in general since the day started. Are most coins pumping? Are most coins dumping? What's going on, right? So regime, this is like very specific. And then general market conditions, this is like for all altcoins generally speaking. And then the second part of the question is, would I take momentum trades when BTC is ranging and an alt is pumping? So the altcoin is doing something like this. And then BTC, in the meantime, is doing something like that. So yes, I absolutely will be taking the trade in the altcoin. And here I have a little cheat sheet for Bitcoin and altcoin correlation. So I'll walk you through it. So the first thing that I want to ask is, what is the correlation of this coin to BTC? What this means is, how similar does the price action of the altcoin look like when compared to Bitcoin? The more different they look, the lower the correlation. The more similar they look, the higher the correlation. So if, yeah, altcoin is pumping, Bitcoin is ranging, there's two very different things happening there. They look like two completely different charts. So I'll say the correlation is low. Awesome. The next part is there a high quality setup in the altcoin? So if the alt looks like this, and at the same time the volume is increasing over time as well, and it's coming into a big level, that looks primed, like it's gonna break out, right? So if the altcoin isn't just pumping, but it's pumping in a specific kind of way, which looks very good for a continuation, then awesome. Let's go and take the trade in the altcoin, and we can just forget about whatever BTC is doing. We don't even need to think about BTC. We can just calmly go and take the trade. If there is nothing that looks good in the altcoin, then we just don't take the trade, right? Because what if the altcoin is, let's say it's up like 80% on the day, let's just pretend, but the way that it pumped, let's say that it's something like this. Let's say it's one of these, right? Where it's really weird or strange looking price action. Would I want to take this breakout? Probably not. It looks a little bit funky, right? It doesn't look like a clean staircase type of trend. It just looks like a big, just a big random spike with messy price action in the middle, right? So it has to actually look good in order for me to want to take the trade. I'll just quickly talk about, okay, well, what happens if BTC correlation is high? Then what? So if that's the case, so the alt looks good and the BTC chart looks good. If that's the case, right, or if the correlation is high with the alt and BTC, if that's the case, I need to completely forget about how does the price action look like in that altcoin, because it's just going to be playing follow the leader of whatever BTC is doing, right? So my attention needs to be on BTC, not the altcoin, if correlation is high. So then I have to ask, well, okay, is there a high quality setup in Bitcoin? Now, if yes, then what I can do, let's say Bitcoin looks like a clean trend and it's coming into a level and it looks like it wants to break out, right? If that's the case, I don't actually have to take the trade in Bitcoin. Like I don't have to long Bitcoin. What I could do instead is I'm just going to long the altcoin. And the reason why I'm going to long the altcoin is because in the altcoin, it's following BTC's price action. It's basically copy paste, right? But the volatility of the alt is a lot higher than whatever the volatility is in Bitcoin. So in Bitcoin, I might only be able to catch like a 0.5% move. And the fees on this move, well, we've got 0.06 to take, and then we've also got another 0.06% to take as well. That's in the event that we get stopped out. So let's pretend that we hypothetically market buy this, and then it collapses and we get stopped out and we take the loss. So in fees, we lose 0.12%. And this is a huge chunk of that. What is that? That is like 25% of our R is basically just gone to fees. So after we get stopped out, we lose 1.25 R. And if we win the trade, we would probably only get, I don't know, something like 0.85 R or something like that. So the real risk reward of a trade in Bitcoin, if the volatility is really low, is going to be garbagely tiny, because the volatility of BTC is just tiny, right? But in the altcoin, which is copying like the movement of Bitcoin, it's a little bit more volatile. Let's say it's like 6 times more volatile. We can take the exact same trade, but we're not going to be getting hit so heavily on the impact from fees, because we're going to be paying the same percentage-based fees. So it's still 0.12%, but 0.12 of 3%, that is like, what is that? Like 3%. So after we lose, we'll lose 1.03 R. And then after we win the trade, assuming it's 1 R, we'll gain something like 0.99 or 0.98, something like that, right? So you basically get more bang for your buck by taking the identical trade, but in the altcoin, right? So that's how I would approach it if there is actually something that looks good in Bitcoin. So basically, whenever Bitcoin looks good, it's going to be quite rare for me to actually take that trade in Bitcoin. I can take the exact same trade, the exact same setup in an altcoin, but just take advantage of the higher volatility and the lower impact to fees, right? But what if Bitcoin doesn't look good and the correlation is high? Well, if Bitcoin looks something like this, then that means the altcoin also is going to look something like this. So this is BTC. This is the alt. There's nothing really that I want to do because I don't want to even take that trade, right? So don't take the trade. So hopefully that answers your questions on market regimes and also altcoin correlations. If you have any other questions, any follow-up questions related to either of the topics, just drop a comment and I will get back to you. All right, Big Hoops, thanks for the question. And by the way, if you're serious about improving as a trader, I'd like to invite you into my free Telegram. Here's what you're going to get inside. You're going to get a 100-page guide on how I trade breakouts. You're also going to get a 214-page guide on how I trade reversals. And by the way, these two guides, I go really, really in depth with the strategies, with the theory, with the logic, and also I include like total combined within these two guides, there's more than 75 trade screenshots for you to study, like through just continuous repetition, and it's going to help you train that pattern recognition of seeing the exact same thing happen over and over again. Also, you're going to get a custom trading journal that I built, which makes it really easy for you to track your trades, but also to review your trades. Like literally in the journal, there's a tab called educational resources. And in there, I have a template for reviewing trade screenshots and guide to show you the process for how to actually review your trade screenshots to improve your performance over time. And also a whole bunch of other stuff as well that I give out for free in my Telegram. So if that sounds interesting, click the link in the description to join.